Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are around the world. And thank you for joining. You're in the right place. Today, we're going to talk about moving forward in life, succeeding despite circumstances. In life, when we fall down, we have two choices. We can quit or we can get back up. If you quit, you got to figure out who you're going to blame. And when you're pointing that finger, you've got three fingers pointing back at you. If you get back up, you got a couple things to think about. One, are you going to try again or are you going to go do something else? If you do something else, people are still going to want to know why you quit. And you'll have some explaining to do. There may be good reasons. But if you get back up and you try again, you realize that you're going to have to learn from falling down, from your mistakes, from your challenges, from your obstacles. Otherwise, you're doomed to repeat Einstein's greatest quote, in my opinion. Fulfilling the height of insanity, the height of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And so you fall again. And people will say you should have quit while you were ahead. My name is Lott, two-time author on the skill of public speaking. 2025, I finished top 8 in the world at the World Championship of Public Speaking out of 40,000 participants. I'm also an executive over 3 decades of leadership and coaching and mentorship. I know a little bit about overcoming obstacles, but that started way back in the early days. When I grew up, I was fatherless. And not having a father in the home, there was a stigma that was attached to it. You wear the banner of illegitimacy. And that's heavy for a kid. But my mom was so supportive. She helped me and guided me as best she could. And I had this affinity for music, my studies and music. And when I was in middle school, I wanted to join the orchestra and play the trumpet. And my mom didn't have the means, so she reached out to my biological father, and I was able to join the orchestra and play the trumpet. Now, when I realized that that trumpet had came from my biological father, it gave me hope. Maybe this person that had birthed me, my birth father, would stop being that and become my dad. So I was invested to try to learn how to play this trumpet because it was a bridge of hope for me. Now, with that said, I was horrible. I was awful. Now, that didn't prevent me from taking that trumpet to high school and trying to make the high school marching band. Now, when I say I was bad, I was horrible. When I practiced at home, dogs would be howling. The neighbors, my friends told me their parents had to wear earplugs. It wasn't good. But how many of you know when you are determined, you find a way to make this thing happen? And I remember I went to tryouts and the band section leader yelled out in the midst of all these kids, "Mr. Eames, that kid's trumpet playing is the worst I've ever heard." I wanted to snap my fingers and disappear. Have you ever felt that way? Now, you wouldn't think it could get worse, but it did. The anxiety kind of took over, and I packed up and I tried to escape. And as I tried to leave that situation, I tripped, fell flat on my face. The entire band room erupted into this laughter. It was humiliating. What a loser. Mr. Eames yelled out, "Dismissed," clearing the room. And there I was, laying there on the floor. I cried. Mr. Eames helped me up. "Lott, do you know why I belt out forward march on that field?" "No, sir." But you should call it forward face plant. You're a wise guy. No matter what happens on that field or in life, forward, march. And there was my first lesson. Mr. Eames was a guide. He showed up in my life and he pointed me in a direction. He said, stop looking in the rear view mirror and look forward. What happens to us when we move forward in life? The rear view mirror shows us things that have happened, but they get further and further away as we move forward in our lives. Do you have a guide? Mr. Eames would be instrumental in giving me that hope that maybe I could find my way and overcome this issue of being fatherless. Now, here's the thing. I'm not alone. Over 100 million children all over the world suffer from being fatherless, not having a father in the home. So when I think about my situation, I know I wasn't alone. It was a shared experience. But when you're at home at night, a shared experience doesn't tuck you in, doesn't read a book to you. And that loneliness, that isolation sets in. But Mr. Eames said, do you want to join this marching band? And I said, I got a chance? Whoa, hold on, son. Not so fast. Let's take it one day at a time. But that, once again, was hope. And I remember taking that hope home that night and sharing it with my mom. And my mom grabbed my round cheeks and pulled me close. What's true today doesn't have to be true tomorrow. Aren't mothers amazing? What's true today doesn't have to be true tomorrow. I believe you'll make that marching band. Man, there's another lesson. Another guide. Sure, she was my mom, but she was more than my mom in that moment. She was building on that bridge of hope that Mr. Eames had laid. She had put another brick of hope in place. I had support from Mr. Eames and I had the love from my mom. And sometimes that love doesn't always tell you exactly how it is. What do I mean by that? Well, that same night, I asked my mom, do you want to hear me practice? I got to get back to dinner, honey, but I'll be listening. As she turned away, I saw her put in earplugs. But here's the point. They just need to believe in you. Your dream is yours. They just need to love you, not love everything that you stand for, because that's going to move in and out. You're going to win sometimes and lose sometimes, but when you have the support, the love from guides that are there not because of what you did, but because of your courage, it's a game changer. When you have that love and support, you feel invincible. You can overcome the insurmountable. And I had this desire to want to get better at playing this trumpet because people were beginning to believe in me. And that included my friends. Every day after school, I'd get home and within 15, 20 minutes, ding dong, my friends would be at the door tackling me. Lott, we're going to play kickball. I have to practice. What? I told you, my parents are wearing earplugs, the dogs are howling. You know Louis Armstrong. Let's go. No, I have to practice. I want my dad to come hear me play. What? We're calling him dad now? Listen, Lott, you have us. I never forget one of my friends putting his arm around my shoulder and saying, Lott, I'm all for the band thing and playing the trumpet, but don't do it for him. Do it for you. Wow. As I sat in that moment, it hit me that it wasn't about pleasing someone else, making someone else proud, or getting someone else's attention to be in my life. It was about what I wanted. And something happens when you want it for yourself. The inspiration kicks in. That motivation empowers you and kicks you into another gear. After that, I didn't go play with my kids, my friends after school anymore. I practiced that trumpet and I practiced and I practiced. And eventually I made that marching band. I remember we took the field and the melodious notes that were coming from my trumpet silenced that trumpet section leader, all of my critics, but more importantly, my doubts. I had made that high school marching band. I would go on to graduate in letter and music, and at graduation, I stood there with diploma in hand. My friends were cheering. My mom was crying. My grandma was beaming. Foolishly, I was still looking for that man to call me his son. He wasn't there. He would never be there. But I was looking all along when I had everything I needed right in front of me. The love from my mom, the support from Mr. Eames, and the encouragement from my knucklehead friends. We often look for something when the answers are right in front of us. Your circumstances aren't the problem. Do you have the people that you need in your life is critically important. Every great feat, whether it's sports or otherwise, they have a coach. Do you have people in your life that support you, whether it's a coach, a teacher, a mentor, an advisor? Do you have love from a family member? At least one. You know, at your funeral, you got to have six people. You got to find six people that care enough. You don't need 30,000 followers. You don't need an eight-figure income to find your destiny, your purpose, to overcome your circumstances, to find success, because success is defined by what we're called to do in life. And see, nature gives us the best example of this. I remember playing hide and seek when I was a kid. And on one instance, I was hiding in the bushes and I was captivated by these caterpillars inching along the branches and munching on the leaves. And because of this, I was easy prey for my friend. Tag, you're it. Look, caterpillars. Wow, super cool. I reflected on that and had a strange question. What if the caterpillar never becomes a butterfly? It's an interesting question. One will never know the answer because nature rules over that caterpillar. It will enter the cocoon, and after a period of transformation will emerge as a butterfly, a moth, or something. As a butterfly, it will go off and pollinate the flowers. It will fulfill its destiny. You and me, we have options. We can get in our comfort zone and we can feel safe. And we can decide to stay there. And that's why so many people in the cemeteries are full of their gifts. It's said that that is the richest soil on the planet because people stayed in their comfort zone and didn't fulfill their destiny and their purposes because they lived under the circumstances. What's next for you? We can succumb to our struggles or we can rise to the occasion. We can stay stuck looking in the rearview mirror, or we can look out into the expansive future with no limits. As you think about your future, what will you do to make a difference and overcome your circumstances? I know one thing. There are three kids who know who their dad is: Kayla, Caitlin, and David. My kids. Out of my circumstances and overcoming my circumstances, they are my joy. And when they need me, believe me, I am there. Success is not measured in cars, land, and resources, but the ability to say, I have done my very best to learn from my mistakes and pay it forward to the leaders of tomorrow. I've enjoyed this time, and my time is up. My goodness. If you want to hang out with me more, find me. I'm not hiding. You can go on a Google search and put in my name. I just dropped my email address. As I mentioned, I am a public speaking coach. Also, I help people author their books. My last two books I wrote in 30 days. I have the system, I have the things and the tools down. So if you need help, whether that's in your public speaking, executive coaching, or in your development of a platform where you can go with a message that'll change the world, look me up. I'd love to hang out. Take care.